Welcome back to the Mid-Year Mitch YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made a jig to reconstruct a C2 Corvette birdcage, and also I'm sending some pieces of the birdcage and the frame out to the acid dipper to get all the rust and paint stripped off. So be sure to stick around.
So we're at the movies, huh?
Yep, we're at the movies.
So the frame is all leveled out and the birdcage is pretty much level on that, and I started taking measurements and I realized pretty quickly that it's going to be very challenging just to take measurements and to try and get this right. So I'm going to make a jig. So I cut these plates out here for the hinge pillar and the latch pillar, and I'm just going to attach a bar in between here on both sides, and it'll be telescoping. That way I can get my measurement right. So I'll take measurements and angles and I'll have my jig. I'll know based off of that side what is a good dimension, and so I can use that as a reference, get it all jigged up, and then I'll use my measurements to check to make sure it's accurate. But the windshield itself, it's hard to get a measurement on it, and obviously all this stuff is very crucial. If it's off just by a degree, 1 degree here can really throw you off up here. So we want to make sure everything fits right, doors fit right, vent window fits right, hard top, soft top, all that stuff. So we have to make sure all this is set up right. So a jig's going to be the way to do it. So the first part of the cage is done. I have door bars down. I just need to drill a hole, weld a nut, and put a bolt in it like I did right here. And that makes it nice and solid. That way it prevents it from telescoping. But this definitely stiffened up this bird cage a lot just with these couple bars. I did plate the inside of the outside of this one. That way it took up the slop, because there's a little bit of slop between those tubes. So I forgot to do that on these ones. Then from here up I'll have a couple outriggers to make sure I get these angles right. But this is at least getting the cabin square, so now it'll just be windshield supports after this. So since the last time you saw it, I added the rest of my bolts on here to lock this in place. I added my gusset plates inside of this, that way everything's nice and tight. And then I added my windshield support. So this is going to help me locate, once I get one on the other side, it's going to help me locate the windshield in terms of how it lays back, and then whether it needs to move side to side. And then I have templates made up to center it on this post. So this is nice and solid. You know, it's really attached on there. So it just clamps in place, and it has a nice fit even when you remove the clamps. So it just lays right on there. So I'll do one on the other side. I have it started. Just need to finish that one up. So my jig is all done, and I think I got all the measurements I need. I'm just going to make sure that all these bolts are locked down, and I scribe marks on here so I know where they last were. But since I have the jig together, I made reference points on here, so I just scribed a line on here with a straight razor blade, and then filled it in with a little bit of like oil pencil or some kind of pencil, and wiped it away, so that way it leaves the residue in the scratch. That way it pops up. So I have a couple reference marks here. I have a reference mark here that I put a square up against, and it'll lean right up here. That's more of a reference point. These marks I measured down to the rocker. Then I measured across with them, and then I made a mark here. I put a plumb bob up here to find the center of this body mount, since that's kind of like our dowel position. So that's one of our crucial dimensions. So I have that noted. It's like 6 inches back from this edge. Then I have marks on the back that I measured down. This mark is the edge of this panel, which isn't super crucial, but at least gives me a reference point. So I measured the bottom of this and the top. Now, for this is an early 63, so this is low. So I measured the bottom of this because that's going to be the same on most cars. This package tray part will be up here normally, so that upper dimension only matters for this car. And then I took these marks, put my tape measure on the inside of that, ran it up here, took a couple measurements up to the Z-bar, and then I just took a measurement, a reference measurement from here to this tube. So I have everything. I think I have all the measurements I need. The most important thing is once all this is apart, put the new rockers down on the chassis, make sure they're centered in the body mount, and then we'll set up our windshield channel and our A-pillars on here, and we'll set them 6 inches back from this hole, which will then set this where it needs to live, as long as this is in the right place. The spacing will be set up from this bar here. The windshield will get the correct angle because of these 2 bars here, and then I have some templates and my measurements which I'll use to check everything before we start burning everything in. I think now I'm going to take it apart. So we're gonna split it off here at the rockers. So a lot of this metal is pretty thin, but I guess I'll go in here, either try to drill the spot welds out or else go in here with the air hammer and blast these out, because this is already falling off here and this is separating here, so it may not take that much effort. So we'll get this front part off, and I gotta scrape off some of this goop before it goes to the dipper. They don't like goop on here, so I'll clean some of that up and we should be ready to rock and roll. And then I also brought my coupe upper part of the bird cage. I'm gonna have that dipped as well. I gotta take that piece of fiberglass off and clean it up, get this little glob off. So we'll get this guy off to the dipper, and also take my windshield frame while I'm at it, just to get everything ready to go at once. Well, the good news is I really can't take the car apart more than it already is. I mean, I can take these pieces off, but this is pretty stripped down. This is the most I've ever had one apart. So my jigs, I took my jigs off after I blasted off all these mounts here, and if the metal was in better shape on these, I probably would have drilled the spot welds out, but it was really bad. I'll drill the spot welds out on these guys, but all the parts that went onto these rockers, you can see how pitted these rockers were. So all the metal that attaches to the rockers is junk. So I'm gonna have to replace all this stuff. So that's why I didn't take a whole lot of care. And I made sure I didn't damage the base of it, but all these little brackets were junk. So I remade those on mine, so that's no problem. I can do that here as well. But you can see that this guy's apart. This is probably the easiest body removal right here. I mean, it's one-handed body removal. And there you go, there's the frame. Just like that. Just like that. Just like that, we're down to a bare frame. So now the next step, I think this is pretty much as clean as I'm gonna get it for the dipper. Just time to clean all this mess I made and get my stuff ready to go to the dipper. The frame's all loaded up in the truck. Got myself a little spoiler here, so whenever you see this next, it should look a lot cleaner. Like I said, these were some of the problem areas in this cross member, and then the back cross member had damage. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes back and what all these bird cage pieces look like. Hopefully they look okay. But the next time you see this, should look a lot cleaner. So as always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I have a lot more projects coming up, and the frame will be coming back in a couple weeks. I have some more work to do on the birdcage pieces behind me, so that'll keep me busy until the frame comes back. And I got a lot more projects to do, and I have a burnt Corvette coming up that I'm going to be doing some videos on here very shortly. So stick around for that. I'll catch you guys later.